So, John, we're going to talk about who our favourite Clark Kent is in a little moment.
Yes.
Our friends over at Talking Through the Medias discussed this the other week there. They also picked up on our conversation from 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, who was our favourite Bruce Wayne. So we're just going to have a little clip here from those guys over at YouTube and just see what they're saying, and then we will gather our thoughts and we will decide who our favourite Clark Kent is.
But this is a discussion about Clark Kent. Now, we were inspired by MBE to do the same thing in the same vein of this discussion, but with another superhero, part of the trilogy of superheroes, the man himself, Superman, but not just Superman, Kal-El, but not just Kal-El, Clark Kent. This is a discussion of who portrayed Clark Kent the best. Now,
I gotta say, I really like Brandon Routh as Superman, as Clark Kent, and also Superman, mostly because the first Superman movie I ever watched, and it was Superman Returns, and right. I did like his performance in the movie, and it reminded me a lot of the original Superman movie from years ago, the 70s one.
Right, with Christopher Reeve, right.
Yeah, so I thought he did a good job trying to portray that same role as from the original film. I love how he was trying to portray that same character, even though, of course, age differences, I'm not going to get into that, but I did like his performance. But then I saw Henry Cavill's performance, and I actually liked it a little better, just a little bit more, mostly because I like how his character, he's trying to figure out who he is, where does he fit in this world, because he isn't sure where he fits in, because he knows he's not human. He knows that he can't reveal his secrets of the world,
right? And
he's just trying to figure out where he fits in all this. And I love that he's conflicted. He's trying to help people, but he's all at the same time unsure if they'll accept him or not.
Right.
So I kind of like both the performances, but I think I like Henry's a little bit more.
I would say Henry Cavill's version of Clark Kent was the most human, most tortured. But I did grow up with those older movies. Obviously, I was Superman came out like just before I was born, but Superman 2 and whatnot, and 3 and the Quest for Peace and whatnot, they were coming out when I was getting to an age of really enjoying like action movies and whatnot. And then it was I didn't think about it, but Christopher Reeves as Clark Kent, he did a great job as far as playing that version of a human, what a godlike creature would think of us as people. Like, people always don't talk about it that much, but if you think about it, Clark Kent is pretty much kind of how Superman kind of sees us: weak and bumbling and kind of clumsy. Like, that's what everything that Clark does, that he kind of stumbles his words, or he stutters, or he trips over things a lot. That's, in a way, it's kind of like how Superman sees us as people. We're weak and fragile. And I think Christopher Reeves did a great job at capturing that. But Cavill, overall, even though I said what I've already said about Cavill, and I love Cavill, he's my favorite Superman. But my favorite Clark is Tom Welling.
And if you would like to see the rest of that show, just go and visit the guys and Talking Through Medias on YouTube. You can also follow them on Twitter at T3 Medias. Now, John,
yes,
the poll that the guys from T3 Medias brought up, who was the best Clark Kent, just like we said. And options were, this is live action Clark Kent's. It's Henry Cavill, got 28%. Tom Welling got 19%. Christopher Reeve / Routh got 53%. And poor old Dean Cain down at the bottom there got 0 votes. So I'm going to pass it over to you first, John, just to let us know what your thoughts on who your favourite Clark Kent was of all time.
Favourite Clark Kent of all time, Stephen? As you know, I'm going to prefix this before I even start the discussion by saying that, look, by no means the biggest Superman fan in the world. So I've only seen really Christopher Reeves, Brandon Routh and Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
I didn't watch TV shows. I think it was Jeff. George Reeves.
George Reeves, yeah,
Not
sorry, yeah.
Jeff Reeves. George Reeves. I didn't watch that. I didn't watch the Tom Welling, I think it was Smallville.
Smallville, yeah.
So I've not really invested that much into the character out with the sort of main cinematic movies. So for me, it's a pretty straightforward choice between Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
Sadly, I can't pick Henry Cavill despite wanting to pick him because he's just not had enough movies to play the character. He also had Man of Steel. I thoroughly enjoyed Man of Steel. I love it. I still say and maintain that is one of the best Superman movies ever created. There's not a huge amount of Superman movies out there, so it's not like he's got a huge amount of competition. No. Also, Superman 4, was it, or 3? Nuclear Man and
number 4, yeah.
Number 4.
Yeah.
So he's not fighting against a huge amount. So it's up there for me, hitting Man of Steel. Very dark, different take on the character. We never really got to see him play, obviously, Clark Kent that much. I mean, I suppose in Man of Steel, he did sort of have that conflict between the human side and his father. I think it was... oh God, it's not Kurt Russell, it's the other one. Russell Crowe. I always blank out. It's the same with the actual human father. I blank out. I want to say Michael Keaton when it's actually your man Kevin Costner. I always blank out with those names. But look, he had a certain degree of divisiveness within, not divisiveness, but sort of conflict within him. And that maybe delved into that lightly, but it's primarily a Superman movie. And then Dawn of Justice, primarily him as Superman. Justice League, it was him reanimated as Superman. So he's not had enough time for me to play the character, whereas Christopher Reeves, as you rightly says when we discussed this previously, Stephen, off camera, he had more time to sort of play Clark Kent and get into the skins of it and differentiate it from that character, the alias in Superman. And he was very goofy and bumbling with the glasses and whatnot, and he felt like a very different character. We had the duology of this character with Christopher Reeves. He had more movies to play as well, so he had certainly more breathing space than Henry Cavill had. And obviously Brandon Routh is sort of a continuation of Christopher Reeves as well, so even though he's not the same actor, he's not going to be in the same level talking with the likes of Henry Cavill. He had 3 movies, Routh had 1, and obviously Christopher Reeves has had 4. So for me, the cinematic, it has to be Reeves, because he's synonymous with the character. He's the gold standard, he's right up there. He's had more time to play the character, and he did differentiate between the heroic Superman figure, rebuilding the Great Wall of China with his laser eyes, and also getting off out and fighting with Nuclear Man on the moon with space curtains and jettisoning nuclear bombs into the sun. He did all of that heroic stuff. He looked stupendous in the Superman suit. Then he was playing this bumbling alias who you wouldn't for a million years think was Superman. So you need to have that duology. It's like Batman. And then you had the great lines as well, like the subway is still the safest form and most reliable form of transport in the city.
He also had the worst lines as well.
Stop! Don't do it! The people! So for me, it has to be Reeves. I love the guy, I love what he brought to the character. Cavill could be the best Clark Kent in time if he gets a chance to actually play the character.
I don't think we will, John. I can't see it, to be honest with you, which is a shame because we got those glimpses at the end of Man of Steel, you know, when he started to work for the Daily Planet, I think it was. But you're right, I don't think he had enough time. Obviously, was Clark, you know, in those early, maybe the first hour of the film or something like that, but this was before Superman was exposed and obviously made public, you know, to the world. But you're right, he's not had a lot of time to sort of develop that side of the character as much as Christopher Reeve did. Brandon Routh, I kind of feel sorry for him because he's been asked by Bryan Singer to basically impersonate Christopher Reeve's performance, and I'm not saying that it was a scene for scene impersonation. He did try his best to put his own spin in it, but he was very restricted because of the story was a continuation from Superman 2. This was supposed to be the 3rd film in that sort of arc. Ironically, Tom Welling, who only played Superman for seconds after 10 years, and the poll was only at 19%. But this
Clark Kent a hell of a lot as well.
Yeah, exactly.
He'd be streets ahead.
You would
He's
think
had seasons to play the character.
Smallville was such a niche project. I felt, you know, you're not going to get the sort of, I don't want to say hardcore because I think a lot of hardcore would probably tune into this anyway. But the ones who are more hardcore for the Superman sort of portrayal aren't going to be interested. I've got to be honest with you, John. Superman growing up was my sort of superhero, you know. I loved Christopher Reeve's performance as well. He is my Superman.
Well,
John Williams' music as well.
Incredible.
the Smallville series just didn't. It was too stretched out for me. You know, I didn't really need to know all the ins and outs of Clark's upbringing. I felt they handled that very well in Superman the movie in 1978. I felt they handled it really well in The Man of Steel as well. So Dean Cain, on the other hand, John, this was a series I kind of tried to get into, but it was more like a soap opera. It was on a Saturday afternoon here in the UK, and it was The Adventures of Lois and Clark. So the title kind of gave you an idea that this wasn't going to be, you know, going through the sort of lore of the son of Jor-El, you know, Kal-El and all that. I don't even think that was mentioned. It was just really a romance.
Was this the 50s? Sort of the older one, or was this 90s?
No, this was the 90s, John.
90s,
I think
so
it was
they had
early.
a degree of special effects. They still didn't even try.
You know, and the suit was terrible as well. It was typical, you know, of a TV budget for its era, you know. George Reeves, which is obviously not in the poll, I know that a few people have mentioned. I did see a few of those series as well, maybe a Saturday morning, you know, Adventures of Superman. George Reeves, funnily enough, would bounce out the window. You know, it was like a trampoline. You know, obviously it didn't have the wires or anything like that, so it was like
Eminem and what's that called?
Without Me, yeah.
Without Me, walking up.
Yeah, so I totally agree. For the reasons that you gave, John, Christopher Reeves / Ralph is my best Clark Kent as well.
Absolutely, Stephen. It's unarguable. I mean, he's had so much more time, and he's synonymous. There's just something. I mean, what they managed to. I don't even think unarguable is a word. You know, I'm going back to that. I don't even think that's a word, but it doesn't matter.
No.
I've made it up. As I keep saying, I'm the Ringo of MBE. I make phrases up, I make words up. That's what I combine them. It doesn't matter. But what they managed to accomplish in that 1970s, 80s era with special effects, it's ridiculous. It still ages pretty damn well. The Superman movies, obviously 4's an absolute abomination, but we're rehashing stuff from the original one. I want to say the original shots of him flying again and again in the subway and whatnot. But look, it's obviously, briefly before we round it up, Stephen, it is a character that, certainly the actors, which have been tinged in tragedy as well. There's been a lot of things happen, so I mean, obviously Christopher Reeves could have maybe had even more goes at this character if he hadn't had that accident with the horse and whatnot.
Yeah,
obviously broke his back and whatnot. I think George Reeves, he says he was killed or something.
Committed suicide.
Suicide. So there is that sort of curse that's around Superman. So perhaps we could have had even more Superman actors if they weren't maybe a little bit reluctant to take the character on, because it seems to be a certain aura around it. There's a lot of perks, but not a lot of. There's some downsides as well. That's what I want to say.
Certainly is, yeah.
But look, Stephen, I ain't get much more to add to it. It was lovely collaborating with the guys over at Talking Through the Medias, T3 Medias, Chris and whatnot. Interesting hearing their takes on it, and also we have gave our takes now. So look, as you did say, if you want to go along and give them a follow, subscribe and see what those guys are up to on Twitter and on YouTube, please do. And if you want to subscribe to us and like what we're doing, then you can also like your video, subscribe to us and comment below. Maybe tell us what your thoughts are on your favourite Clark Kent / Superman. Do you agree with us? Christopher Reeves, you think it's Henry Cavill, George Reeves, whatever the hell, Dean Cain, Tom Welling? You can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are regardless. And if you do subscribe, then you'll see us back again for movie news, movie reviews, maybe even some reactions again if they start showing them. But look guys, we're done, so I bid you farewell.